Last year in 2023, there's a period where I went from making 15K a month in commissions to 36K a month in commissions in a 3-month time span. Literally last night, I found this dusty old Zoom recording in my computer where I was breaking down the 4 main changes I made during the time period to make that happen. And I was thinking to myself, should I put this out? The video and the audio is a bit fucked, but here it is.
From 15K a month to 36K a month in commissions in 3 months, what it took and what it'll take to get to 50K months. First, I had to systematize my day and I had to make sacrifices. What I mean by that is when I got onto 7th level, this is an account I'm on, I was still living in Korea at the time. So I was living in my parents' house. I just started to make a little bit more money than I was before. The problem with that is because I was waking up at 3 in the morning because I was in Korea, which is like Australia time zone. And then I was selling to US market, which is like the opposite time of the day. I was waking up at 3 in the morning and then, just do my thing, get ready, confirm calls, follow up, whatever it may be. I started my first sales call at 4 in the morning and then I went to about 12 p.m. And after that, I'll do admin and things like that. The problem with that is, first of all, it limited the amount of calls I could take, obviously. And the second of all, while I was sleeping, people would reschedule, or cancel. And by the time I wake up, right, it's like too late for me to like get another person in the slot, whatever it may be. So I was losing out on opportunities. And also, I was not able to have a regular social life because I remember one time going to the amusement park with my friends, and by 1 p.m. I was drained because my day's upside down. And so biologically, my body just breaking down. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this now. I'm willing to do this now, but it's not sustainable. So I got to figure something else out. So I was like, I tried to go to America or Canada, but at the time, COVID and paperwork situation didn't work out. And I'm like, what can I do? So I went to Europe. It was better, not the best. And I was like, okay, what else can I do? I can't go to North America. What about South America? So that's what I did. I'm in Colombia now. And that gave me more opportunities to get more calls in. And so I just left behind my friends, family, everything, life, everything. I just came here and that's what I did. I chose to do that. That was good. And also, once I got here, I ordered the same food every day on work day. So instead of me having to think like, oh, what am I going to eat today? I have to cook whatever. I'm just like, you know what? Order the same food every day. It's like saved on my phone, on my delivery app. So I just click one button, they come. I was like, all right, perfect. So that was good. And also, I only went on 1 to 2 dates a month. For me, that's a lot less than what I'm used to, right? I'm used to going about like 3 dates a week, and then I condense it down to about 1 to 2 dates a month. So instead of like me spending time and mental focus and bandwidth on texting girls, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get this, whatever, maybe what restaurant we're gonna go to, all that. I reduced it, removed it out of my brain, out of my day, right? So just the bare minimum. And also, I hung out with and talked with friends less. While my friends out here was going to like boating and like going kayaking and things like that, I just didn't go, and that's what I did. And the only content I was consuming was sales related, unless it was on my off day. Throughout my work day, instead of listening to Drake while I was working out, I was listening to Matt and Jeremy talking about objection landing, tonality, things like that. Didn't watch any Netflix, any entertaining YouTube videos. Only thing I was watching was Jeremy and Matt. I removed decision fatigue. It allowed me to just focus on just work, sales, nothing else. So that's what I did. So I'm a more of an extreme case, especially because I'm fairly new to sales and NEPQ. So I got into full-time selling last April, which is about like 11 months ago. And so when I look at 7th level, all these guys that I still look up to, which I think is like crazy and awesome that I'm here. These guys have been selling for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. So if I want to compete with these guys, I got to condense and speed up my learning process as much as possible. So that was my thought process. Second thing I did was calendar management. I realized on 7th level, that account was like the show rate and the sit rate was just very low. Like it wouldn't budge. It wouldn't go above 60%. It would just go between like 45 to 50%. And so I tried everything. I tried over communicating with prospects. I tried under communicating, calling them, not calling them, texting them, not texting them. I tried everything in between and that I was aware of. It just wouldn't budge. And so what I realized was that these people inherently, they have unpredictable schedules because they're salespeople. But once I realized that, okay, so in that case, what I gotta do, I gotta go harder in calendar management. I gotta double book certain slots. So I went harder in the paint with Anthony's calendar management process, but went harder to the point where some leads were kind of complaining that I was texting them too much, whatever. I went to that extreme and then I kind of toned it down a bit. I'm still finding my sweet spot. And that allowed me to take my sit rate, which is the slot utilization rate. So sit rate is, let's say you have like 10 slots available throughout the day. And then if you get 7 people, you're speaking to 7 people throughout the 10 slots, that's your sit rate, slot utilization. I went from 54% sit rate to 82% sit rate. And that's the thing. What I realized is the sales process and activities almost instantaneous, not overnight, but it's a quicker process than like the skill set part. And I understand that I'm doing my best to get better in the skill set department, but I just knew this was the lowest hanging fruit that Matt talks about all the time. What is the lowest hanging fruit? If you were to fix this one thing, it's going to make the biggest difference in you making more sales and making more money. And so that's what I identified and that's what I fixed. And so that's what I got better at, right?
If you also want to multiply your commissions, then you can go to the first link in the description box below. You can join the Real Sales System, which is a free school community. And there, you'll find some of the SOPs I've used to close more deals. You can actually book a 30-minute one-on-one roleplay feedback call with me or my team, where we'll have you roleplay and actually give you feedback on what you did well, what you need to improve on. That way you don't have to keep losing out on deals. We can't share all the SOPs because it's for our full community members, but you'll see some. I'll see you there.
Number 3 is I became process dependent rather than outcome dependent. I was getting very frustrated. Maybe you can relate it to, I don't know, that people just were not moving forward. They said they have a problem. They need to do something about it now. But at the end of the call, they're like, yeah, man, let me think about it. Yeah, there's too much money. I don't know. Now it's not the right time. And I was getting very frustrated. I was like, what's wrong with these people? What Matt told me to do was that, dude, that's not going to help you because that frustration is going to come across. You're going to lose sales. And for your long term, you're going to get burnt out. And so Matt told me to dump all my call recordings for everyone to watch in the Slack channel. And I did that on the same day. And so if you look at the team trading channel, you will see me spamming the shit out of the channel with all my call recordings. The good ones, the shitty ones, whatever it may be. The ones that close a sale, the ones that didn't close a sale. Because the outcome, what I wanted is what Matt told me about it too, is that it doesn't matter if you close the sale or not. The goal isn't to close the sale. The goal is to follow your process to the best of your ability at that moment and throw the kitchen sink at the dude. Even if they don't want to move forward, well, fuck it. If you tried your best, that's it. If they decide to stay shitty at sales or whatever the hell that you sell, that's them. It has no consequence on you. And so I know like Matt talks about all the time, like focus on the process, not the outcome. But when he put it like that, it kind of made more sense. It landed better in my head. And so once I started like dumping those, the calls didn't become me having to make the sale, but the call became, okay, how well can I do? Because I know people are going to watch this recording. How good can I do? And even if I feel exhausted that day, I'll do my best. And that's what I've been doing. And so that has made a bigger difference. And so it's been great. And the fourth one that made the change for me is building a bigger gap, because I was getting slammed ever since I'm back from winter vacation from Europe. I was getting slammed with, hey, can you send me an email? Hey, I think I'm just going to think about it. I don't know. And so I was getting slammed out on a daily basis, like 3-4 times on a daily basis. I was getting so mad, so frustrated. And what I realized was, okay, they're saying that because there's no urgency, obviously. What's going to create that urgency? Building a bigger gap. And so I identified that, listened back to my calls and realized these people feel like they could do it on their own. So I got to fix that. So I got to build a bigger gap. They got to see, I identified that the calls that I listened to Matt's and the calls I listened to my own calls is that the people who move forward knew that they could not get there on their own with their current skill set. And so, so I got to check that box. You know, the question with the current skill set you have in place now, how close are you to being able to XYZ? In that question, I made sure that it was like nowhere near. Once I got that, I stretched the gap. I used calculators and shit like that. Okay, so when do you want to, okay, so you want to retire. That's great. When do you want to retire by? How much would you need for that? Okay, cool. So you need about this much. Is that right? Okay, cool. That's before tax. They're like, shit. Yeah, so you would actually need this much, which is, and then it stretched the gap. And that's when I started getting less of that. And my close rate doubled. Not overnight, obviously, but as I got better at that. And so that made pretty good change. Here's what I believe will take me to from 36K a month to 50K a month, which number one is calendar optimization. I'm doing a decent job at it now, but I just need to do a better job, and I'll need to continue being in US time zone. I'm going back to Korea in a couple of weeks because I haven't seen my friends and family in a very long time. But so my calls will go down for about a month. And after that, I'll go back to either Colombia or maybe Scottsdale. Because I think at this point, I'll be able to go to America. So that'll be my goal. That'll be the plan. And what I'm doing in terms of call volume, or at least the back-to-back calls I'm doing, because as I got better at getting people to show up, it was fun for a bit, but as a byproduct, it created a higher quality problem, which is I started to become exhausted and drained. These people would show up. It's like they'll show up. So I had like 6 to 7 back-to-back calls. And number one, I wouldn't have time to eat. And so I was getting hangry. And second, I was just getting like exhausted. I was like, okay, another call. So what I have to do is I'll need to do breaks every 3 to 4 calls, right? So I'll need a buffer, which will increase my overall work hours, which I'll need to be okay with. But the hypothesis I have is that maybe I'll become more efficient. That way my close rate will go up because I'm feeling less exhausted. I'm able to make better decisions, so on and so forth. So that'll probably be the change I make next week. I'll have to reassess and go back to my calendar and things like that. But that's plan number one. Plan number two is that I gotta be relentless with the follow process with money, logistical, no sales. Because going back to the lowest hanging fruit, when I looked at my tracker, the most common objections on this account I was getting was money, logistical, no sales. Meaning that wanted to do it, either didn't have the money for the whole program, the payment plan, or even the drop sale. They got denied financing, whatever it may be. Or they were an international internationally, so they couldn't even do financing. Before, what I was doing was like, I thought I was, oh, but I took them to financing. I did everything I could, or I'd be frustrated because these people are broke. On one of the trainings that Matt did with 7th level was that by the end of the call, doesn't matter if they have the money or not, they should be begging you to follow up with them. They should be begging you, and they should be weeping because he was talking in a podcast. Matt and Anthony were talking about Dan Locke's his stage pitch. When Dan Locke is pitching the high level inner circle mastermind or whatever, and he'd be like, all right, if you want to sign up, go to the back of the room. Apparently, there were grown men when the card got declined, grown men weeping and crying the fact that they couldn't do it. That is just phenomenal. Obviously, Dan Locke is Dan Locke. He's a phenomenal marketer, and he created a cult. Obviously, I don't have that now as a sales guy, but I can sell them so bad that I could have that. And so once I started I'm doing this a little bit better now. So I started getting more of these. Like, people will be crying that they couldn't afford it. I started getting that, right? In solution awareness, I have more people crying. What's your plan to come up with the money? What's your time frame? All right, I'm gonna check up with you every few days. You better pick up the phone. I started doing this more now, so I think I'm starting to build more of a pipeline for myself. I just got to go harder in the paint. I just got to be more relentless. And the plan I've so far recently made is blocking out an hour on Monday mornings and 1 hour on Friday afternoons for follow-ups. That way a sales call cannot be booked in, but I can actually dedicate that time to do follow-ups. Because my perspective changed, because after I was like, oh, just take as many sales calls as possible, I'll make more sales, I'll make more commissions. But what Matt was talking about was that that's a trap, because you'll be at a cap at a certain point if you do it that way. But if you start to build a pipeline and close the money logistical no sales, you'll just close them over 5 to 10 minute phone calls. And in an hour slot, you could bang out about like 12 to 24 people over 5 to 10 minute phone calls, right? Because you're calling them. It's like, hey, if you got the money, they're like, yeah, I got the money. Okay, perfect. What's your card details? Boom. So that kind of shifted my perspective. I was like, okay, so let me do that. Number 3, I got to stretch a bigger gap, which is I got to get the real why in solution awareness and not moving on until real tangible outcome and real emotional outcome is established. So you may be familiar with in Matt's scripts, in consequence, he has a red line, meaning that until he gets the actual consequence, he does not move on. And so in solution awareness, I got to do the same thing, because what I was doing is I kind of got an emotional outcome and tangible outcome, maybe not enough for these people. So I got to do a better job at getting the real why, not the surface level why, which Matt calls it the moment of time. We're not selling sales training. We're not selling business coaching program. We're not selling land flipping deal. We're not selling a fitness training. We're not even selling the losing the 50 pounds. We're not even selling the 50K a month. What we're selling is the moment in time where the person calls their parents to pay off their parents' mortgage, and how fulfilling that would feel. It's the moment in time where the guy comes home and be like, hey, honey, you don't have to work anymore. You can stay with the kids because things are going well in sales. It's the moment in time, whatever your thing is, right? It's the moment in time where the person loses 50 pounds and then now they can go to the beach feeling confident. It's like a big you to their ex-wife. So things like that, right? So we got to get the moment of time. I'm focusing on that more now. I'm doing a slightly better job at it. I got to do a better job at it. And the consequence needs to be catastrophic, not just that would kind of suck. Like you re-ask with different ways, analysis, things like that, until you get the actual consequence, which is catastrophic. Number 4, last one. Overarching goal is I got to get better at more conversational flexibility. What Matt pointed out is the fact that, and Shane as well, I speak fast, as you probably saw in this video as well. So I got to speak slower. So action item is stop watching YouTube videos on 2x speed. That's what Shane recommended, because I do that now, and that could be part of the reason why I talk really fast. I gotta speak clearer because English is my second language. I can have a conversation with people. Still, just the nature of my first language is Korean, and just the nature of those two totally different languages, right? It's not like Spanish and English, which is similar. And so my enunciation and my pronunciation can be unclear at times. That's the feedback I got. So I gotta practice on speaking clearer like I'm doing now, over the top, and that'll allow me to find a sweet spot. And I got to help them open up more, be more interested. I got to be more empathetic, because another feedback I got is that I look like I'm dead inside. And that's another thing. So in Asian culture, we're not expressive. My father is the most unexpressive person on planet Earth. Not to blame it on him. It's not his fault. It's not my fault, but I got to still, be more adapt to Western facial expression and social cues. So what I'm going to do about that is when I watch movies, paying more attention to their facial expression, watch American movies, and look at Kevin Hart stand-up videos, because what I saw Matt do really well is that he helps people open up more by sprinkling like clever jokes here and there. They're not forced, they're just conversational, which helps it make it seem like a conversation, not a sales process, and help them open up more. I'll get better at that, and I gotta listen better instead of being too rigid on the scripts.
If you enjoyed this video, you might also like this one, where I break down how I went from making 2K a month in commissions to 36K a month in commissions in under 1 year. So if you want to see the video, go here right now. I'll see you there.